Welcome back to another episode of Haitians in Medicine, brought to you by the Speak Up Network. Today we have Dr. Daniella Lamour.
Hi.
And she is actually a ER resident? Yeah, that's
yes.
what your residency is, right?
First year emergency medicine resident, yes.
Yes, she's a first year emergency resident. So, Danielle, let's hear your story. So, like, how long has it, like, since 8 years, how long has it been since, like, everything, and how do you, let's hear your story.
Okay. So, honestly, in terms of medicine, like, since I was a child, my mom always told me that I was going to be a doctor. Because she was a nurse, and then she became a nurse practitioner. So we were always, like, my siblings and I were always, like, with her, with all of her medical missions, her healthcare events. Like, she's very active in our community.
Is she in Hana?
Yes.
Oh my
God.
God.
Are you in Hannah?
Yes. Well, okay, so one of my friends, her mom is the president of the chapter in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, yes. So she's in Hannah. She's a past president of Hannah too.
Oh wow.
Yes.
I think I don't know if the is Fort Lauderdale and Miami the same chapter, but I
think
know
it is. Is it Pauline?
Nadine.
Oh, Nadine
Burrow.
I know Nadine, but I didn't know she was a president.
Well, her daughter
She's
told
the
me she was the
president.
president.
She probably is, because I know the Miami chapter. I'm not sure about every other chapter, but Nadine is the best. She's super humble, sweet. But yes, it's very small. It's very small. But yeah, my mom was very active. Well, is very active in that organization, and we were always with her in all of her endeavors. And so I was exposed to medicine since I was a child, only because she was in the field. So I always knew I was going to be a doctor, because she quite frankly imparted that on me. I found my identity since I was younger, thankfully, because of my mom. So when I went to undergrad, I already knew, you know how sometimes some people have to kind of figure out what to do because they don't know. Like, you're growing, you're a young adult, you don't know. But me, right when I started in my first semester at FIU, I actually volunteered at Mount Sinai Medical Center in the emergency room. So that's my first experience in the ER.
FIU, by the way, everybody, is Florida International University, and HANA is the Haitian American Nurses Association.
Yes. So I started at Mount Sinai Medical Center in the emergency room as a volunteer. I did that for 16 weeks, and it was so exhilarating, so fun. Like, it was just, and I was just a volunteer, but I was looking at everything like, whoa, like, I love the pace. I love the continuity. I love that people, you had to be ready for anything that came in the
definitely.
door. Yeah, and
I used to work in the trauma. Well, I didn't work in the trauma ER. I worked in the trauma ICU / step down.
Okay, so you're used to that. Yeah, definitely. And then the acuity. I just love that people were just on their feet. It was just never a dull moment. So I was just like, wow, I think I want to do emergency medicine. So then during undergrad, I did things to get into medical school. Like, I became a teacher's assistant. I became a research assistant too, because I just knew, like, for medicine, there's certain boxes you should check off to make your application stronger.
Oh, we'll definitely get into that later.
Yes. So I just kind of did all of the steps that I knew I needed to do, like becoming a teacher assistant. I did research. I did a lot of community service because Hannah, they always need volunteers. I did that through them. And then after I graduated FIU, I became a medical scribe. So that's another thing that can help you become a physician. So a medical scribe is basically like a doctor's personal assistant in the ER, or it can be in an urgent care or a primary care setting. So I did it in the ER, and again, I loved it. And then I also did it in an urgent care. And I did that for about a year while applying to medical school. Then I got into medical school. That process is super long for anyone who is applying. Stay with it. Don't quit. You got this. You will make it in Jesus' name. Got in, and medical school, the first 2 years were, the first 2 years. Difficult because it's the book work. You had, like in my school, I went to VCOM in South Carolina. That school, you have, like, exams maybe 2 to 3 times a week. So our exam schedule was very tough. So you were just always studying. So the first 2 years were just stressful, hard. You were sleep deprived. Everything that would you imagine in medical school, that's what the first 2 years was. Then I went into my third and fourth years in medical school, and that's my clinical rotation years when you're in the hospital. And that was just so much fun. Like, I loved it. The third year, I came back down to South Florida. I was in Wellington, at Wellington Regional Hospital, and I had a great time. I was under the leadership of Dr. Barry Pierre. He's also a Haitian American
I've
doctor.
heard of Dr. Barry Pierre.
Yes, he has a podcast too, and he's the program director there at the hospital. So it was amazing being under his leadership, learning like what you learned in the first 2 years, seeing it actually in patients and actually experiencing basically medicine in real life. It was awesome. And then fourth year, we were you apply to your respective specialty, whatever you want to do for residency. And yeah, I did it in emergency medicine. I had a lot of grace and favor. God really put his hand over me through that process. And now I'm here, about to start residency as an intern at FAU, emergency medicine residency.
So you were talking a lot about like how God is favoring you. So so faith pretty much helped you a lot through this whole journey.
Okay, that's an understatement. Like, oh my gosh, God was like the biggest. I witnessed him more in my life in medical school than in any time of my life.
Oh,
because
girl, tell me about it.
Like, you know, when you're going through it, you really could only look up and it's only God. Like, you could only see like all the things you made it through and a lot of things that I didn't have difficulties with because of his grace. He was leading me every step. Like, it was, even going to medical school, he told me what medical school I was going to. Everything was kind of ordained. And honestly, if I could give you advice, I would say just really lean on to what God wants you to do, because he will align your steps. He will make a way, and he did. It was very evident. Yeah.
So, okay. That was a lot. So, okay.
Yeah.
So let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So you said that you volunteered a lot, and there were certain boxes that you have to check off as a pre-med student.
For sure.
What are some examples of the boxes that you would give to someone else who is currently an undergrad trying to do what you're doing? What are some of the boxes that you would tell them they should check off?
Okay, so there are three main boxes that I would say, and then there's some other things that you can do. The three main boxes that you just should have as a pre-medical applicant is research, and it doesn't matter what type of research. I did my research in psychology. Some people do it in a biology lab. Some people do microbiology. It really does not matter as long as they see that you are interested in learning more and being uncomfortable. That's the whole point of it. A lot of people get bogged down with what type of research and this and that. Whatever you're interested in, I say go for it. Research is very important on your application, and I did that for I did two different research experiences. One was for about 3 months, and another was a year trying to get a publication. So if you can get a publication out of your research too, even if you're like the 10th author, it does not matter. As long as you have that you're already securing something under your belt. Even for residency, if you have that publication, you don't really have to do as much because you kind of have it already, like when you're applying for residency. So that was great. So research, even if you don't have a publication, just get into a lab, any type of lab, and get involved. So, and sometimes you can actually get a recommendation letter from that too. Another box I would say is volunteering. So me, when I applied to medical school, I had a bunch of volunteer hours, like over 1,500, but you definitely don't need that much. I did because, again, I was involved with the Haitian American Nurses Association via my mom. So it was very easy to get volunteer hours. When I wasn't doing much, I was at their health fair, or I was helping pass out book bags because they're very active. Oh, yeah, so definitely. So I would say find an organization that you like, and just kind of, it doesn't matter if it's, with summer camp, it doesn't matter if it's with dogs, whatever. As long as you're volunteering and giving back to your community, that speaks volumes on your medical school application. Another thing I would say is basically just kind of getting out there. Like me, for that looked like a medical scribe. Medical scribe is like, you don't have to have it, but it looks so good on your application. It's basically a position that you do get paid, that you can do while in undergrad or after you graduate if you're taking that gap year. I can talk about that gap year a little more later. So a medical scribe, again, is basically a doctor's assistant, and it's usually used in the ER because it's so fast-paced. They kind of need help help charting. So you're just going to be the person charting for the doctor. So you get to go in the patient's room, you get to hear the patient encounter, you document everything that happens from the history, the physical exam, everything that they're ordering in terms of labs and imaging. You literally get to see everything because you're actually clicking all the boxes. So you're learning in the process too. You can ask, hey, why did you order this? What's the rationale with this? I learned so much as a medical scribe that when I was in medical school, a lot of things made sense. I was like, that's a UTI. I've seen that 100 times. Oh, that's a kidney stone. That's, you get so much experience that it's like, and it's in your field that you kind of like you're a step above the rest, so to speak. So I would definitely recommend pre-medical student to do that. And certain organizations or groups that do that as physicists, Scribe America. You can do low-key scribe jobs like I did. It was called Critic Care Clinics. I did that because they paid a little more. Because you're getting paid minimum wage, but because they realize the value of the education you're getting as a scribe. Mm-hmm. So don't expect much in terms of money unless you get like a low key scribe job like I did, and that was like $15 an hour, which is good for like a pre-med student, like saving for applications. So I would say those three are things that you should be doing. Other things to put yourself out there is like medical mission work that also falls under volunteer. Like I did 2 medical missions with Hannah. Again, that was kind of easier for me to do. But again, find an organization. And I mean, even Hannah, if you're willing, you can kind of ask them and they can probably get that started for you. But medical mission shows that you're dedicated to people. You're willing to get out of your comfort zone. You're willing to help people who really need it. And I feel like during my interviews for medical school, they spoke about that a lot. Oh, definitely. So I would say if you can, it can be pricey to go on a medical mission. If you can, that will help your application. And of course, the other things like, have your GPA at a decent number. And even if your GPA isn't good, look for newer schools, I would say. There's always like kind of a way. So you could just find schools that are probably 2 years, 3 years old. Oh, yeah, where there's a will, there's a way. Exactly. Just find a way. Get a mentor. They can help you with that. And I would say find someone who is in medical school or graduated medical school because they can vouch for you. Like, there's people that contact me and say, hey, can you help me get into medical school? And I just make a phone call at my school because our school had some issues with diversity, and I made it very clear. And so I just feel like if you have a connection with anyone at a school, they can probably just help you get in. And I would say, hey, well, I know this person might be great. Even if I don't know you, it's okay because I just want all of us to get there. So find a mentor, find someone who's in medical school who has done it already or is in residency or is a doctor or an attending physician, and see how they can help because you just never know the pool that they have at their school. So yeah, that's really the why I even started this podcast, because like even just before we started, like we realized how our paths probably have crossed. Yes. So it's like people don't understand like the Black community is small, the Haitian community is even smaller. Absolutely. Even if like I'm originally from this area and you're originally from Miami, like we still probably could have crossed paths. Absolutely. So that's really one of the things that I plan to accomplish with this podcast is to bring people from all like sets of the medical field together, because we do need all of us. We need each other. Absolutely, we need each other, and it's even evident in medicine. We're all in the same setting, and we all have different roles that are super important to each other. So if we can learn about our different professions and basically help each other, even if I don't know, for example, I have a friend who's applying to PA school. Even if I don't know the route, I can try to refer you to someone who knows the ropes, or I don't know, like. Even just give a recommendation. It's very important, I think, to just talk to each other, cross paths in the Haitian community, because, again, we can achieve more together than alone. Definitely. So, okay, then you started talking about making it to medical school. What was your defining factor into choosing to be a DO and not an MD? Okay, So with that, I would...
Oh, wait, sorry. For listeners who don't know what DO and MD is. So DO is Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine and MD is Medical Doctor. But they both have the same scope of practice pretty much.
Pretty much. Yeah. So so she said the DO degree is a Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine, and then the MD degree is a Doctor of Medicine. So the only difference between the degrees is that a DO degree, you have, in addition to what we learn, the normal medical curriculum, we learn something called osteopathic manipulative medicine. The reason why I chose DO is honestly because God told me that's where I'm going. Mm-hmm. So I remember when I was applying to medical school, I had like a moment with God saying, hey, God, please help me trust you a little more in this process. I want to go where you want me to go. Like, it was just a very deep moment. And then the next day I got a call from my school saying, they want to interview me. And then I went to the interview. And then the next day after the interview, I got into the program.
Oh, wow.
Because it was, God told me that's where I was going to go. He told me to trust him. And then when I asked him, how can I trust you more? This is the opportunity he presented before me. So that's how I picked my school. But I would just encourage people not to get bogged down. It depends what you want to do. If you're interested in primary care specialties, I think the DO degree will definitely help you in that you can make more money, because with the OMM skill that we have,
What's OMM?
So that's osteopathic manipulative medicine, okay. And that's what differs us from the MDs. It's basically these are techniques to help you as a patient restore your functional and structural issues with just your body. So we learn how to do things with our hands. So just like chiropractors have like manipulative medicines, and they can manipulate your body, we kind of do something in the same realm in terms of manipulation, but it's more than that. We work on your muscles, we work on your bones, we work on your skin, we work on your lymphatics, we work on a lot of things that's vital to your overall health as a human being. So if you were to say you're going to enter a primary care specialty, I would say you can bill more for your OMM thing, because like our OMM doctors that teaches us, they break down the financial aspect for us, and they tell us how you can bill up to $100 more if you just do these to your patients, and it helps them drastically. Like some people come just for manipulation. Do you know how people just want to just go to a chiropractor for manipulation? We can do that in addition to traditional medicines and giving you advice and medicine like pill form. So we try to help your body restore its overall health with itself. Okay. So it just depends what you want to do. Like with me, it didn't matter so much because I'm going into emergency medicine. So I'm not really going to be manipulating people in the ER because you don't have time. It's like 1 minute and you got to figure it out. Yes. So it really just depends what you want to go into, but I wouldn't just encourage you to not get bogged down in the degree, because the scope of practice is the same, the pay is the same. So it just depends what you want to do as a physician once you get there.
So how does it feel now that you have the DO behind your name and you're a resident? Like, how does it feel now compared to like when you just started?
Honestly, I feel like I don't have the full weight of it yet because I'm not in the medical setting since this coronavirus started. Everything kind of been like at home.
How is that? Yeah.
I haven't really experienced it as much because, again, school has been virtual. Well, I only had like 1 more month left of school before it happened. But a lot of things we've been at home more. So I just know that I have it. But in terms of the weight and what it feels like, I haven't really experienced it yet. I just know it feels good because all of that sacrifice, everything you've been through, it finally paid off. You finally got what you were working for. You could finally help people. You could finally serve your calling in life. So I'm just excited to start, with my purpose. Like, so in terms of like, how does it feel? It's so many feelings attached to it, but the most important thing is I just feel blessed. I feel like very honored that God chose me to, continue to do this path and to continue in his will, and excited for what's to come.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah. So I know a lot of people, so we have a school down here similar to your school called LECOM. Yeah. So how did you like your school, and how do you feel like those schools are? Because those are really, really private compared to like the Novas and the UMs. So how did you like Virginia?
My school? So it was the school, I would say. How did I like it? I mean, I just went there to do what I had to do. I feel like I would have liked it more if we had more African Americans in our class. I honestly felt like a minority at the school. because out of 163 students in my class, there was only 3 Black students. And that was a problem for me because we made up less than half of 1% of the population in our school. So as you can imagine, the stresses that come with being a minority in medicine, everything, and asking questions just among your peers. I think if that was something that was better handled in terms of the amount of minorities, and I'm not going to say minorities, I'm just going to say African Americans, because there were a good amount of minorities, but in terms of African Americans, we were just the least. I felt like I'll be more comfortable if I had people of my own there. Like, just to be quite frank, I honestly always feel comfortable. Like, of course I had friends, but I just would feel comfortable because we have a different struggle. Oh yeah, I would say, and it would be easier to kind of share that amongst my peers, to kind of go through it together, because it was only 3 of us. We managed, but so the school itself, I didn't have any issues, but the fact that, we had such a small number, that was one thing I just really did not like. So to combat that, I became a president of one of our organizations at the school, just so that my voice can be heard at the leadership standpoint. I was given access to the dean, to many people who can make changes. And so we were able to implement some things at the school. We were able to, basically advance it in terms of the minority aspect, and specifically the African-American aspect. So that's what I would say. Other than that, I think my school was good. I got a scholarship going there, which was great. I honestly, so some people would say that, like, if you need help, like, I know some friends of mine who struggled. I don't know if they got a lot of support. So if you feel like, what type of learner you are. So if you feel like you might fall back and stuff, I'm not sure if there is a lot of support for that, because I know that was some of the concerns that were raised. I personally did not experience that, but I would just say lean on not only God, but your peers. And if you need help, please don't be afraid to ask for help. I was never the one to be silent when I had a question. Like, if I don't understand something, I'm saying I don't understand something. And I'm raising my hand in front of all 163 people. But I can understand some people will have some issues with that because of the judgment that comes with it and this and that. But me, you can think what you want, because my grades speak for themselves. So I mean, if I had an issue, I'm going to say, I don't understand. Can you please explain this physiology again? And they would explain. And if I needed extra help, I would go to the professor's offices. Some people are not comfortable doing that too. So it just really depends on who you are. But I would say, don't worry about what anyone thinks, because at the end of the day, you're working for your degree. And at the end, when you get that degree, it's all on you. Their perceptions of you don't matter anymore. What people think of you don't matter, because, again, you're going for one purpose. So there are things that can kind of bring you down. But, yeah, that's the only thing I would say about my school, the minority aspect.
So being 3 out of 163, that's just like it's
crazy.
Facing all odds. What are some of the setbacks that you could say that you faced?
Okay, so I would think, like, one of the major setbacks for me is actually having to leave my home and going away for school, because I went from being dependent to totally independent, having to cook for myself, having to clean for myself, having to do my laundry. I know I'm old and I never did all that before medical school. So that was an adjustment in itself. And in terms of, like, another setback, I would say, like, during my second year up there, we had, like, some early clinical experiences, and that was a good thing my school had in place. So that third year wasn't, like, a big surprise. So when I was going for one of my early third year experiences in the hospital, I guess I was very busy. I didn't eat, but I ended up passing out at the hospital. And I just remember saying, hey, can I step out of the patient room? I felt so hot. Like, I knew I was going to pass out. It's something called vasovagal.
Yeah, vasovagal response.
Yes, so I already knew it. And I'm like, can I step out? And then before I know, I was on the floor, and I woke up, and I just saw all these people surrounding me. So
just in case anyone wants to know what a vasovagal response is like it's like right after you take, like, a dump and you try to stand up, that, like, times 10.
Yes, or, like, if you see a celebrity, you get so shocked, you pass out. There's just certain things that kind of heighten that vagus. It's a nerve that kind of makes you calm down, but all the way down, you could actually pass out. So, so I just remember waking up to everyone, like, surrounding me, asking if I'm okay. So I would say, like, during medical school, make sure to take care of yourself. Eat. Eat is the most important thing. Eat. Even if you're about to be late. For me, I was about to be late, so I didn't eat breakfast. So that was a setback, but again, it was a setup for a major comeback.
So now that we got through that part in med school, so when it was finally time to get matched, how hard is it to get matched? And did you get your first choice for matching?
Okay, so so for people who don't know what matching is, when you enter medical school, the goal is to get your degree, learn medicine, and match into a specialty that you want or a primary care field. So basically, you're applying for your residency spot. It's called the match. And for some people, it is difficult. It really depends on you as an applicant, depends on your GPA, depends on your board scores. Board scores are very important. Depends on what you could bring to the residency. So, for example, if you have like a 3.0 GPA and you want to get into dermatology, which is doctor for the skin, it's a very competitive specialty. So you're probably not, okay, let's say your board score, if you want to use the USMLE, is less than a 230 or less than, let's say 250, because it's just such a high specialty. You're probably not going to get in, and that will make it more difficult for you to match. So you should know your stats as an applicant to see kind of where you would kind of align into what respective specialty you want to get into. So if you know you want to get into dermatology, orthopedic surgery, HENT, like ENT, the ENT doctors, those are very high specialties, and you should probably have the stats to back it up. If you don't, it will be very hard for you to match. Not saying it's impossible, because with God, everything is possible, and He really can make a way. But you will struggle a little more if you don't have the stats. For emergency medicine, which I'm completing, you couldn't have below a 230 because it's competitive. So it depends on the competitiveness of the specialty. If it's competitive, your stats need to be competitive. You as a person need to be competitive. If not, it will be difficult to match. So I feel like if everything kind of aligns, if you have good board scores, good GPA, and other things to enhance your application, you can match successfully. But I do know a lot of people who did have everything, check the boxes, and still did not match. It's a formula that none of us really understand, because if you don't match, it doesn't mean you weren't smart. It doesn't mean you're not a good doctor. It just means it didn't work in your favor in terms of, and it's not that people didn't want you. So the way the match works is the ranking has to kind of align. So if I rank you my number one, like FAU, emergency medicine program was my number one program. And I knew I was going to go to that program too, because again, God told me I was going to go there. So I knew I wouldn't really have difficulties. And for me, I didn't have any difficulties with matching at all because of, again, God's grace. But you have to align the ranking. So if your number one program, for example, like me, is FAU, you should kind of see if they're going to rank you number one so you can match. Or you could be ranked in their top 6 first, because FAU only accepts 6 people in emergency medicine. So you need to kind of see if
you've been competing.
I know, it's like,
sorry,
what's
I was
going
there for
on?
undergrad. I'm just like, I've been competing to do anything there since I got there.
Oh, you go there too?
Yeah, so
Nice.
I went to FAU for my undergrad, and then now I'm back there to get my BSN.
Awesome. Congratulations. But it is, so it just depends on if they rank you high enough to match into their program. So it's like a formula that none of us really understand, but there's a good YouTube video on it. It is difficult depending on your stats, but definitely possible. If you're doing well as a medical student, you shouldn't have any issues matching, but again, you still can. So how long is residency for those people who don't know, like the time after medical school that you're taking to learn the new skills? Okay, so for emergency medicine, it's 3 years. It depends what you want to do. If you want to do general surgery, that's 5 years. Most primary care specialties like peds, internal medicine, and family medicine is 3 years. Dermatology is 4 years, 1 year intern. So depending what you want to do, the length of time of residency differs. But even in emergency medicine, there's some programs that are 3 years and some that are 4 years. So.
Wait, why some of them are 3 and some of them are 4? Do they do the same thing, or?
So the extra year, they act as an attending physician. So an attending physician is basically when you're complete. When you're completely finished, you're out of residency training and you're on your own. So they say they act as a senior. It's extra years for research if you want to do basically everything I'm not interested in. So I'm like, I'm not doing 4 if I can do 3. Okay. So, yeah.
So what were some of the experiences that you had in med school that are shaping you right now?
Okay. So, one of the most remarkable experiences I had in med school was when I was actually doing my audition rotation at FAU during my 4th year, basically auditioning to get into that residency program. Mm-hmm. So, for those who don't know, FAU's emergency medicine programs are under the hospitals of Bethesda Hospital East and Delray Medical and St. Mary's. But in that region, there's a large Haitian population, which is why I honestly ranked that as my number 1 choice too, because I just really felt at home and I felt like I was helping my own people. And I had a particular patient, I remember she came in, and as a medical student, you go see the patient first and then you present it to your attending physician. So when I went to see her, the chief complaint was abdominal pain. So I was asking her to basically elaborate on her pain, what basically brought her to the ER. Mm-hmm. And then she basically went on a tangent explaining the cause of what she thought was her abdominal pain, which was that she was sleeping and then she had a dream that a snake entered her stomach and someone told her that this was going to happen, and then she woke up with this pain that's going to kill her because the snake is inside of her going to kill her. And I'm like, okay, Mommy upaka dimsa. Okay? To be quite frank, that's not, I cannot help you with that. I said, did you eat something? Trying to, reframe the question. Did you eat something different? Did anything happen out of the ordinary? No, I'm telling you, it was the dream, and this is what happened, and this I'm telling you have to fix. And I'm like, we can't really help with that, and I don't want you to tell the attending physician that because, of course, it's a cultural thing. Mm-hmm. Not everyone's going to understand that, basically that cultural aspect of it. And I'm just like, just allow us to do certain testing, because she was adamant that we had to get the snake out. And of course, there's no snake and we can't get it out. So I just had to convince her to just let us do some testing and let us do, kind of further see what the cause of her stomach pain was. And of course it was gastritis. So it was no snake, but it just shows you the cultural differences in medicine and how people think differently and how it influences their response to healthcare in terms of accepting what the doctor will do, what medications to give. And I think understanding those cultural biases is important as a physician, which is why it is important for more Haitian American doctors to come into the medical field, so that we can kind of be that voice of reason for our patients.
Definitely. So what advice would you give to someone who is like looking at you right now and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to be just like her?
My advice is that you definitely can be like, I'm not an anomaly. Like with God, all things are possible. And if you really want it, please do it. It doesn't matter what comes in your way. Like not everyone's path is straight. Everyone's path looks different. In my class, there was a 46-year-old. There was a person who applied 8 times and finally got in. There are many different people that make up the field of medicine. And just because you feel that you may not look like the traditional applicant, please don't let that discourage you. I think you should just go for it. With me, honestly, my mentality was to get through with school and then be done. So after undergrad, I went to medical school and I'm doing residency. I didn't really do a lot of extra in between. But if you want to, again, please do. I honestly just say, don't let anything stop you. Like, if this is your calling, God told you to do this, you're going to do it. Like, he's going to make a way like he did in my life, and he's going to give you the favor and the access. He's going to open doors for you to do it. So I would just say stay close to God, because he, again, will align your steps. He will tell you where to go, and it will happen. I believe in Jesus' name it will happen. If God tells you it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So if you want to be a physician, you can do it, and hopefully you choose ER. But even if you don't, I still love you.
So let the people know where to find you on social media.
Okay, on social media, you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me at Just Being Danny. So just JUSBEING_DANNI. And Facebook, it's Daniella Lamour. So DANIELLA. Last name Lamour, LAMOUR.
So, like, do you have any upcoming projects that you want to promote while you're here? Or anything you want to talk about? Like,
nope, just preparing for residency during this pandemic.
It's going to be a long... Invest in a... What's that thing? The gas mask.
Oh, the gas mask. Yeah, my brother bought us one, but I never wear it. 'Cause it's
girl, that's what we have to literally wear. And, like, I don't know if you see this mark on my face. That's where I got it from.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Literally taking off, putting on, taking off, putting on. Like, it destroyed my face. But I make sure to do a mask every night now. I can't be doing that now.
Oh, okay. I'm not ready for all that, but, of course, I have to be, so...
Throw the advice in there.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for listening again today. We had Dr. Daniella Lamour, and she spoke about her journey in med school, journey to residency, and make sure you guys listen to us weekly at Haitians in Medicine on Instagram, Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube at Blood Knows Best. Thank you. Bye.